the case of Charlie Kirk. Haven't talked about it since last time we talked. And what are we gonna ever find out what has happened to Charlie Kirk? Because it seems that he's fading away from the news, and just Candace Owen is talking about him, no one else.
Well, there's going to be a trial of Tyler Robinson, the alleged shooter. The trial so far, the judge has banned all filming and taping of the proceedings. And actually, there's now a petition by friends and supporters of Charlie Kirk to allow taping from inside the courtroom. I'm not sure what they think will come out of that, but TPUSA is officially supporting that. And additionally, there was a story in the New York Times yesterday which suggests that those who are trying to learn more about the FBI investigation and whether there was a second shooter, whether there was any foreign connection, whether there was anything to be suspicious about, other than, and whether there was any angle outside of the official story, which is that a disturbed young man who was angered by Charlie Kirk's anti-trans rhetoric shot him for political reasons, should be shamed. This article homed in on the director of counterintelligence in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. His name is Joe Kent. He works directly under Tulsi Gabbard. And the article was obviously inspired by leaks and comments on background from the FBI, which was angry that Joe Kent had begun prying into the FBI's investigation, obviously on behalf of elements in the White House and within America First, the America First movement, who do not trust the official story and don't trust the FBI investigation and don't trust Kash Patel, who fumbled badly during the first 72 hours of the investigation and was responsible for various embarrassing displays about seeing Charlie Kirk in Valhalla. So Joe Kent was shamed in this article, painted as a crazed conspiracy theorist for simply seeking to vet the FBI's investigation from within a civilian position. And I think that's the kind of accountability that people who supported Donald Trump and supported Charlie Kirk probably want, but it threatens to unravel an official story which has been weaponized by the Trump administration and the broader conservative movement to further erode free speech in the US, to strip people of their visas for making tasteless comments about Charlie Kirk, for putting people in prison. There's actually a man who's been in prison for comments he made about Charlie Kirk online, and for generally ramping up the security state and enacting some kind of FBI COINTELPRO style operation against the left on the bogus grounds that Tyler Robinson was actually a member of the left, when if he was the lone shooter, was clearly a nihilist who was acting outside of any political movement's parameters.
Yeah. Max, there is another, some sort of turmoil going on in the United States in considering Zoharan Mamdani in New York. It seems that he's going to win and he's going to be the next mayor of New York. And there is a lot of hate.
Sorry, Nima, before you finish this question, I forgot. I wanted to make one point about Charlie Kirk, and then we can come back to this question. What we need to know is what happened to Charlie Kirk's body. Where is Charlie Kirk's body? And was there an autopsy? What do we know about the autopsy? What do we know about the ballistics report? Where's the body buried? Is it buried? I mean, what's going on there? Because that's what we've heard nothing about. And I think it's the data that everybody deserves that could put all of the supposed conspiracy theories to rest. So I just wanted to put that point out there before we move.
Yeah, great. Yeah, good point. And Zohran Mamdani, coming to him, and the Democratic Party has decided not to support him. and then later on they have found that he's gonna win. Then let's support him. Let's. What is the case of Zohran Mamdani? What sort of the threat is he? Because they see him as a threat. You look at, on X, everywhere, MAGA, Republicans, all hate him.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that he's trying to make, that he resonates, his sort of argument resonates more than the Republican, than Democrat? What is that?
Well, Zoran Mamdani represents a larger trend within big city American politics, but especially a city like New York, that's a magnet for young people from around the country who want to be in a cultural and financial center, and who see Palestine as sort of the moral test of our time. And so you have this whole new class all across the major boroughs of New York, along with many native New Yorkers who are rejecting the Zionist politics of the past, which have dominated New York politics for generations. I mean, you can look at every New York mayor of my lifetime. None of them were allowed to part from the pro-Israel line, and each one competed with one another to be more pro-Israel than the last. They were complete fanatics. And anyone in New York politics, I'm thinking about someone many viewers might not have heard of, Charles Barron, who was a New York state senator and city council member who represented many poor Black New Yorkers and did a very good job of representing them as they were being pushed out of the city because they're priced out. He was an anti-imperialist, opponent of apartheid from South Africa to Israel. And the New York establishment did everything they could to drive him out and destroy him and make an example of him. New York's also the most Jewish city in America. I mean, it has the most Jewish residents outside of any city other than Tel Aviv. So any city outside of Israel. So this is unfathomable for the New York political establishment, the financial establishment in New York, that someone like Zoran Mamdani, who comes from an academic family, whose father was an outspoken opponent of colonialism, who wrote a book, Good Muslim, Bad Muslim, which actually helped inspire my book, The Management of Savagery, about how the CIA has actually supported jihadism around the world in order to weaken geopolitical American foes. These forbidden truths were passed down to Zoran Mamdani, and now he's being attacked in two separate ways. And I'll explain why, but he's being attacked in two separate ways. One, just simply for being a Muslim immigrant. This is an attack from the national Republicans that Andrew Cuomo is conveying, which I think, is destroying whatever was left of his legacy after all the sexual harassment suits and all the corruption scandals. Andrew Cuomo is now agreeing with right-wing radio hosts that Zoran Mamdani is a jihadist, that he would welcome another 9/11. And they're doing this because they want to make they want to hang the New York City mayoral election around the National Democratic Party's neck like an albatross, and they hope that it will cost them elections in like suburban swing districts in Ohio, in swing states. That's why JD Vance is getting involved and mocking Zoran Mamdani for referring to family members' experiences with Islamophobia after 9/11. Has nothing to do with New York. But that, I don't think, will succeed. The Democratic Party is running away from has run away from Zoran Mamdani for that reason, because they're afraid of losing races elsewhere if they embrace him too closely, because he represents a particular trend in New York City. Then you have his enemies in New York who they're trying to swing the polls and set up a battle if he wins between him and the NYPD on a really bizarre basis. Zoran Mamdani, as I said, he understands many of the things that we understand about Israel-Palestine, and he had given several talks before activist groups about the NYPD's training with the Israeli army, which most New Yorkers do not approve of and would not support if they actually knew about it. But the New York City press barely covers this, and it's extremely scandalous. I mean, during the Obama era, the NYPD ran a so-called demographics unit in New York to specifically spy on Muslim New Yorkers, but which also spied on Muslim students as far away as Yale University. I think they spied on students at Rutgers too, outside New York. And according to the Associated Press, this demographics unit was inspired by methods that Israel used in the occupied West Bank. And this is in addition to the NYPD maintaining a liaison office in Kfar Saba, Israel. So they have all kinds of connections to Israel. They're training with the Israeli military, which, as we know, is a bloodstained apartheid occupation army. Nobody in New York wants this. And now all of these clips are coming out as the sort of 11th hour opposition research to attack Zoran Mamdani for drawing these connections. And I don't see how it's going to work, because nobody supports these deadly exchanges with Israel. And I think this is actually a blessing, because I've been trying to educate the American public for almost 15 years about Israel training police forces, not just in New York City, but in small towns, in college towns across the US, telling them how to shoot criminal suspects as though they were suicide bombers. This is how we start to educate the American public about the toxic special relationship with Israel, and Mamdani's enemies are doing it for us. So I kind of welcome this battle, but at the same time, it's important to understand what they're trying to do. I think Mamdani's enemies understand he's going to lose. He's going to win. And on the day after, they want the NYPD to help lead a coup against him. The NYPD is like a state within a state. It is larger than most foreign militaries, and it has many officials and rank and file officers who are hostile to Mamdani. So they want to pit the NYPD against Mamdani. There's also the likelihood of, we saw this over the past 2 years, staged anti-Semitism incidents. There are going to be so many staged incidents if he wins. And I would be concerned about manufactured terrorist plots like the kind we saw, especially during the Obama era, manufactured by the FBI, in which the FBI created a controlled plot for some mentally disturbed Muslim man, and then scared the public into believing that ISIS was operating or Al-Qaeda was operating in our midst, when it was entirely the FBI's doing. I think New York will become a theater for these kinds of intrigues as they work to make an example of Mamdani, to make sure, number one, his example doesn't spread to other cities, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Chicago. These cities all have the same, very similar political constituencies. And number two, that he's hamstrung, that he can't actually enact an agenda in which he has actually promised to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he comes to New York and end the exchanges with the Israeli army. Already, Zoran Mamdani has conceded and kept on Jessica Tisch, the NYPD commissioner, who is a committed pro-Israel Zionist, who is a political enemy of his. And I think this is because of the fear of a kind of coup attempt from within after he wins.